Hello everyone, my name is Avichai and I would like to talk today about awakening in times of crisis. I've decided to record my first entire video in English and to some people it may be a surprise, but I thought to just like make a forward for my third book, because until now I have recorded many videos in Spanish, in Portuguese and in Hebrew. I've written two books. The first one is The Path to Oneself, Guidelines to the Awakening of Human Consciousness, and the second one, which is Faces of Divinity, Your Own Path of Transcendence. Now, when I'm talking about awakening in time of crisis, we're talking about two types of awakening. We could say that the first one is like a horizontal type of awakening, which is what is happening on the surface of our reality. And there we could also say it's on a particular level, on an individual level, in which we're talking from time of birth to the time of death. But on a collective level, it is what is happening to humanity now. So what is the vertical axis? This type of awakening is on the axis of person that you are, to the soul that you are, to the source which flows through you. And many people have had this type of awakening, millions, I would say, on the planet Earth. And nevertheless, not all of us understand the relationship between this horizontal awakening from the matrix and the vertical awakening that we have as spiritual beings. And these two are completely interconnected. This is another reason for which I'm doing this video and not waiting with a book, which could take many months, maybe years. It is because I think we should relate these two types of awakening and have clarity of where we are going, both on our soul journey as individuals and on collective level as humanity. So grasp as much as you can, please, from these minutes that I'm sharing with you. Take whatever you need for your own journey and expand this awakening consciousness after you watch the movie. Thank you very much for listening. Let's go back to the horizontal awakening. What is happening on planet Earth right now? Of course, it is related to this crisis, which has started a few months ago, but in truth, when I talked about this in 2012 in my first book, I explained that this is already a time of great change for everyone, and that we should have a very wide look at what is happening. A few months ago, when this coronavirus crisis started, we were told that we should be put under curfew and that there's a great risk for humanity, and that the whole effort was made to flatten the curve of contagious disease which could end the life of millions, and so and so and so and so. And most people forget this. And in this sense, in the horizontal awakening, we tend to have a short memory, but this is how it started. And after that, something very weird happened. People started wearing masks. The danger, the frightening, the paranoia of what happens when you go out, when you cannot breathe fresh air anymore. And we were bombarded by official media and also by internet sources of that great danger. And of course, the danger was not real, because there were not 20 million people dying from this disease, and they're still not. It's more like a common flu, and maybe a little more in some cases, but the reports of the real numbers and what is happening in the world are very much in doubt, because the rules to classify, the exams to classify who is really sick and who is not sick and how to handle it is all being messed with. So what is really happening is that if we use just a common sense of reason to analyze what is happening, that can create a huge confusion in the minds of many people. It means we understand, and we also have this intuition that something is wrong, that we're not told the truth, and suddenly governments are taking human rights to themselves, putting new regulations and limiting everything that is possible before that, and is telling us that there will be a new normal life, but it's a new type of normal life, and in which we will not have the same life as before. We're talking about using all sorts of electronic media to control our life, to follow our life. In many countries it was offered officially. We're told of vaccines for everyone to handle this epidemic. We're told of maybe future chips or electronic cards. There's an official ID 2020 which talks about everyone having a digital identity, including companies, through which we will have to go through in a certain way, and we will be classified, and everything will be controlled in a way from the day of birth to the day of death. You will have your ID, and you will have to have everything in it, the money you earn, and the bank accounts, and the vaccines that you have taken, and your temperature of the body, and where you are. And so it will be all governed by a new technology called 5G, and more technology that we don't know about. Now, this information, when you really go into it and when you explore the media and you see the mass attack on the consciousness of people who are really being kept at home with fear of breathing, fear of being associated with other human beings, getting close together, celebrating life, it seems completely irrational compared with this epidemic that we were told that would destroy humanity. Start to wonder, what is happening? Is this true? Are we being lied to? Who is behind all this? Is it coordinated? And that can cause, in the dynamics of awakening, in the horizontal axis, it could cause us a great deal of confusion. Because who can handle so much information and disinformation? Who can handle so much media which is coming through directly to our home everywhere and saying to us, stay at home, wear masks, do that, do this, when apparently this disease is totally different. People who don't have the symptoms, officially it is known now, cannot be contagious, and the death rates, even if you consider the maximum death rates, are about like those of flu, which is much less than cancer, heart attack, accidents, violence, and everything. So if we go back to this situation of common sense, if you just have a common sense, something will be ringing a bell and telling you, this is not right, something is not correct here. We're supposed to be awakened to something which is happening, and who is behind this. I will not give the answer to these questions, but I will try to put them bluntly so that you can think for yourself. And there are many people who are awakened in this matrix sense. They know that what is being told is not the truth. Main media is just throwing more and more and more frightening information and causing paranoia. And on the other side, we don't know where to take an alternative information, and the alternative information sources also are very biased. So we are in a confusion. We feel sometimes some sort of rage coming from our heart. We feel that we reject all this is what is happening. We want to close, to shut down for everything that is happening, and we try to map it in some way. maybe there is a simple way of understanding. And so many people in this situation, what happens to them is they try to take the easy solution. The easy solution says, all right, there is left and there is right, like always. And when I'm saying left and right, I'm saying politically. There are those who are, say, on the left, political, like communist, socialist, if you want, in the United States. You're talking about more Democrats, so-called. And there are those who are more right, who are conservative, who are patriots, and so on. So we say, all right, these are the bad guys, the good guys, or vice versa. These are the good guys and the bad guys. But this is too simple. It is not the truth. We know it is not the truth. We're looking over worldwide, if you want, situation, and we see that what is happening is not corresponding to this simple analysis. There are governments in different places in the world who are from the right or from the left, and they are doing the same thing. They're all repeating the same type of slogans, analysis, diagnostics, vaccines, and so on, so and so. And we understand that it's not about right or left, or about patriots and communist or socialist or globalist. It is very important not to fall into duality in this sense. And this is the game of, I think, history. No? When you divide people and you put fear into them, then they will run to the easiest solution. And all the empires in the history of humankind, whether it is the empires from the Roman one and the Greek before that and the British and the Turkish and others that we've had, they all use the same methods. So we are, as human beings, are called to awaken on this horizontal axis, to ask ourselves what is really happening, how can we handle it. But it's not about only the information about the flu or about the coronavirus or about what is correct or incorrect to do. When I write about this in my first book, I am also saying this is about the history of human race, what is the true history of civilizations on the planet, what are the connections of humans with outer races in the history of humanity. Have we had connections with or influences of other races? It is really an awakening to something much bigger. It is awakening to who we are on a collective level. And when you explore this and you understand that the pyramids could not have been built in Egypt by the ancient Egyptians, as they're told, with those tools at those times, and that there are pyramids all over the planet, and that ancient civilizations existed before this civilization. We're not the first, and we didn't start with the Babylonians 6,000 years ago. Maybe something that has happened in the long past, hundreds of thousands of years ago, maybe millions of years. It depends on your vision. So it is really an awakening to a different way of perceiving this experiment in consciousness on the planet Earth. That is, you ask questions about technologies, about who are governments, who are they representing, why are they acting the way they're acting, where is this going to, and the axis of information and the horizontal axis is really more related to our mind, to thinking clearly, to understanding. Where am I? Is this country for or against globalization, or are there patriots in the head of this country? And all these questions will lead us many times to duality. Duality. These are the bad guys and these are the good guys. And I'm with the bad guys or with the good guys, depending on my view. And we may fight over these questions. But this is not really the answer. When you look deeper into the evolution of societies, of worlds, and of histories, and our own civilization, you will see that because of the mass media and the control, the interconnectedness of civilization. In any situation, we are going as humanity towards a type of globalism. So the whole descriptions of where we're going to this globalism, or we're going to this patriot, different nations, and so is just false. We're going to globalism because we're connected by internet. We're going to globalism because we have burning issues of how to take care of climate change, of resources, of equality, of human rights on a global level. It is not a matter of the bad who are globalists and the good ones who are the patriots. We are in any case going into a higher level of consciousness in humanity. It's just the type of globalism we are going into. There are types of globalism in which we will be like mass sheep who are receiving orders, working, doing whatever we can to survive, and there are globalist views in which we as humanity should evolve as a race, take care of our actions, of our responsibilities, and awaken to a connection with other races in the universe. And those who go deep down into an investigation of the human race will certainly find that we as a human race are a mixture of other races, and that which was called the original Homo sapien is really something that was created by formal science, where there are many evidence that this Homo sapien, the genetics, was intervened, and we are a result of this intervention. So going back to the horizontal axis, it's a huge field of investigation. And anyone that has looked into this field of investigation will be really bewildered. It's mind-blowing what we have to learn, and most people will just say, reject. I don't want to go into this. I just want to be living in my own capsule. I don't want to know about this, and when some information comes, it will make me feel rage, it will make me blast, and I don't know what to do. And this is exactly what I'm trying to say, which is not what we want as humanity. We have to awaken into a situation that will happen in one way or another, in which we have to take responsibility of ourselves as a race, with considering the human rights, the resources, the climate, everything that has to do with a planetary culture and consciousness. And taking sides on the duality will not solve the situation in the sense of the good ones and the bad ones. If we don't awake now to what is happening, then we are taking a step into ignorance on a collective level. But the awakening in times of crisis is not just about the horizontal axis, what is happening on the surface of the planet, on the surface of the life of each one of us, the biography, where we came from, what we've been doing, what is our profession, our family, our relationships, and everything. The horizontal level is just an awakening to something that needs to happen on a global level, and there is a battle behind the scenes to control what is happening. And we, when we awaken, we are watching for all the possibilities and deciding for ourselves what is the best for us as a collective consciousness. So awakening on this axis is so important. Questioning, using our common sense, not accepting the mass media control and the orders of different governments. And I'm not for or against any government. I'm just stating that it is not logical what is happening. And in many countries, there are many protests, movements to fight for human rights now. But it is the awakening to what is happening on the planet that can save us on the horizontal axis. When we go into the vertical axis, And sorry for using a Cartesian Descartes, if you want, description that has disadvantages, of course, but it is the best way to explain it on this moment. And when we think of the vertical axis, it is the ancient spiritual questions. Who am I? What am I doing here on this planet? What have I come for? And what is the future of me as a person and maybe as something else? So what is this something else that can happen? When you learn the dynamics of awakening spiritually or in consciousness, you understand the first principle is that when you focus your attention somewhere outside of you, you create reality there. And depends on where you focus your attention and how you open your intention from inside, and sometimes on your breath, you create reality outside. So most people are really confused about the reality that they are creating outside because they cannot focus for a long time on something. And the first teachings of how to awaken on the vertical axis is about bringing back attention to you and getting to stay completely present. And when you are present, that is called many times mindfulness, you notice that you tend to throw your attention outside and to become very much confused, dispersed with everything that is happening. So when you're present, it's like a first step of awakening. On the same time, if you take this attention and you bring it inside into your subconscious, something very strange happens. You start discovering that you have memories, that this body is not just who you are, that you have past lives memories, and many people already know about this. Those who are spiritually awakened in the vertical axis, they would probably agree with me that we have a soul. We're not just a hardware. We are not just a machine, a biological, chemical machine. When we look into the subconscious, we discover this software that we have. And this first awakening leads us, as many others have already said, like Brian Weiss, like Dr. Michael Newton. In the Spanish language, if you look into internet, and you will see the regressions put by Dr. Aurelio Mejia Mesa, you will see thousands and thousands of people who are just doing a clinical regression, and they remember past lives. They talk about who they were in past lives, languages that they spoke, and under hypnosis they begin to speak again, other civilizations, and something which becomes even a very troubling information. Under hypnosis, when you look at his testimonies, those people talk about how they came from other places in the universe and they came into this human experience. So on the first level of awakening, you discover that when you bring attention into your subconscious and not just into mindfulness, you discover your past lives, and you are a soul coming to earth to grow, to experience what it means to be human. And so this is one of the questions which are very important. I was asked many times in conferences and in lectures, how is it possible that 200 years ago we were only 800 million people on the planet, and now we are almost 8,000 million people? So if we all reincarnate, so-called, on the planet, where all these souls come from? So you must understand, planet Earth is like an airport, and at the same time it is a school. Souls come here, and so many millions of souls came into Earth in order to awaken. This is the time of awakening. So that is why it is so important. All those souls came to Earth to use the body vehicle body, mind, emotions vehicle to learn about the human experience. So it is a unique experience in the universe as a whole. So in this first awakening, when you play with your attention and instead of putting it outside and focusing on something constantly and losing your concentration, as it happens to many people who use gadgets, telephones, internet, they're just losing the capacity to concentrate and to create conscious reality. So when you take this consciousness and bring it into your body, you become present. But if you take it to your subconscious, you become conscious of your soul's path and that you are a human being in this life cycle. But perhaps you were not in other life cycles. Perhaps you had many other lives in different cultures, in different languages on the planet. And this is, again, a vast information that opens to you and that you can explore exactly like on the horizontal axis. There's so much information. On the vertical axis, there could be a vast amount of information. As a therapist, I've done thousands of regressions, and leading people into their past lives was part of the work that I've done, and showing them that they're much more than this body, much more than this mind, and there is a huge journey of our soul that is there to consider. But there's also a second level of awakening, if you want. If you have a perspective of yourself as a human being, and this human being is like a magnifying glass, and it concentrates the attention, whether outside, inside, in the back part of our mind, in the subconscious, or in the mindful vision of who we are at this moment, then there is someone always that is handling this attention. And this energy that comes through you from your heart to your mind and is thrown outside has a source. So if we take the metaphor of the computer, if you have a hardware and software, then now you are awakened on the first level, and you understand that you have a software and that you have a journey of a soul, and that this body-mind is not just a machine. But now you discover that the computer does not operate without a source of energy. So where is the source of the attention coming from? So you have to go into a deeper level of meditation to discover that you can absorb all this attention coming out of you as a form of energy and go deeper into the source. And when you go deeper into the source, you lose the sense of the doer. Who is doing all this? I am the issue. I, whether it is I the person or I the soul. There is no much. There's no more this person or soul, and there is one source that is using all of us as instruments, as channels. It's like millions of computers plugging into the same electricity. So when you awaken to this state of feeling the source through you, it is a completely different type of awakening on the spiritual vertical axis. You understand that all these opinions, visions, people that you see outside, they are complementary. That is, we are all part of a huge hologram in which the source itself is expanding through us. And when we awaken to this source acting through us, experiencing itself through us, then we go to a non-dualistic vision of reality. And that is also very, very important, because both on the vertical axis and on the horizontal axis, you can reach a point of non-duality. Non-duality means that on the vertical axis, you're not a person or a soul separated from the rest. There is that which is outside and this which is inside. And this perception is dualism in the end. And the same thing will happen on the horizontal axis. The horizontal axis means that there are the bad guys and the good guys, and we are with the good guys and the rest are the bad guys. So this is again a dualistic perception. When you awaken to the source, which is flowing through you, let's say it that way. You understand the whole perspective of human race and of you yourself as an instrument of divinity, if you want. You understand that you're plugged into an intelligence which is beyond your mind and beyond all the game which is happening on the planet Earth. You also understand that while we here on Earth are in the physical dimension, in the reality, when we pass away and our soul goes to the other side, we had millions and billions of guides and souls and unique beings of light that are guiding the process of evolution on planet Earth. So your vision becomes more positive and you have a root within you that you can understand, all right, so it's not about going into duality and deciding which is good for me and which is bad for me. It is connecting to the source within me, both on the horizontal level and the vertical axis, so that you can use this unique opportunity of your life on Earth to both awaken yourself to the deepest level which is possible, go beyond the duality, and become an instrument of that which is really flowing through us. And also in the collective sense of horizontal reality. You are here to do your best for awakening of human consciousness on a global level, not just throwing yourself, getting lost in duality of the good guys and the bad guys. You are here to operate as an instrument for evolution of a race which is just awakening. So all those souls have come to planet Earth for a reason. They have come to awaken. There are many souls who have suffered in past lives and in other places in the universe. And this is an experiment in consciousness. Experiment which is taking place for thousands of years, and it is coming to, you can say, the edge of what we know about ourselves and about the universe. Everything will change, and it is your time to awaken. It is your time to look at who you are truly, beyond the person, beyond the soul, to the source, and also of the human race that you want to have for your children, for your grandchildren, for everyone else. As you can imagine, there have been many planets in different solar systems where this type of experiment was done, and many civilizations have gone and disappeared after collapsing. But we here on planet Earth are in our experiment of collective consciousness. And it is not enough to have just one type of awakening, just the horizontal awakening. That means that you will doubt every information that is coming to you, and you will be mainly focused on your mind. You will be doing all the time analysis and comparison and everything. You will not have a basis for going down into the source, and you will get lost. So the problem with only one awakening, if you want, is so much information, so much disconnection between the mind and the heart. And so what will happen is that much of information can just take you out of balance. And on the other side, if you're just a spiritual being meditating, doing their own work, it's not enough either, because you have a body, you have food, you have relationships, you have children. If you are an awakened spiritually, an awakened being spiritually, then you will also have a responsibility for your outer actions. You cannot just live in a bubble of spirituality and not see what is happening on the surface of Earth. So to me, it's very crucial to transmit this message that we have to awaken both horizontal and vertical in the sense, and to understand this uniqueness of time, of the experiment in consciousness, which is called planet Earth. We are guided. Before we came to this life cycle, we already had the soul's plan to pass through this experiment in consciousness. We all come here with an existential program. You must understand this. It's very, very important. I've been accompanying the lives of so many thousands of people in different languages. And in my own case, I remember about 20 lifetimes and have pictures of myself in other lifetimes and books that I've written in other lifetimes as well. And I know that there is an existential program for every human being. But on the collective level, it's not the same. There's not such an existential program on a collective level. There is an awakening as a program. That means that it's up to us as human beings to decide what we want to have on the planet in the future. And this battle on the horizontal level is so important for us to understand and to go into the deepest place within us and create the reality that we want. Now, when I'm saying that if you're just a spiritual being which is not looking outside of himself or herself and not interested in the world, that's not good enough. I do not mean that you should stop meditating or do your spiritual work. On the contrary, but it has to be directed and conscious. When we act as spiritual beings just on the surface by actions, and the consequences is limited because we are not coordinated mind, heart, and body. If we don't take this into account, as spiritual beings, we have to work from the subtle to the dense. And so when I want to impact a reality, then if I meditate, if I think on the most subtle level of what I would like to have and I visualize it and I bring it down to this dense reality, then of course it is the most harmonious way of acting. So all of us who are awakened spiritually, this is the time to use meditation. This is the time to use our capacity as channels of this source, as instruments of the source, to create a resonance in which many more people will awaken. But we also have to take into account this horizontal axis. We also have to think, feel, and act with this vibration to awaken leaders, to awaken the masses. If we get to have this critical mass of people who are awakened both on the vertical and on the horizontal axis, then we can create a better future for humanity. So I invite you to ponder, to investigate, to search, to seek the answers for yourself and for the society that you want to have, not only on an individual level, but on a collective level, and to exercise this power that you have as an instrument of the source and influence as much as possible many people on your path, and to get out of duality. Stop fighting the bad and doing the right thing. Just look at what's happening on a global level. We're going into an awakening of the human species. We're not alone. We were never alone, not as spiritual entities and not as physical beings. There are infinite evidence of intervention on all levels, both spiritual and physical level, extraterrestrials, etc. So we ourselves could be considered extraterrestrials inhabiting Earth in this time, learning the human experience. So what type of human experience do we want? What is this awakening leading us to? I would want to suggest that instead of having a divided reality for the human race, which means that some people will continue to reincarnate in a slave type of world in which there will be masters and slaves and there will be a separation, and other people will continue on other planets or other realities or on the spiritual realm, that perhaps we could create a global reality of awakening. And that would be the most incredible journey for consciousness on Earth. But this could take decades, centuries, millennia, I don't know. But also that we are not here on planet Earth as souls to suffer. we have chosen this adventure and we're supposed to enjoy it, to live it fully, to be conscious of it. So while having this adventure, keep in mind and in heart and in body that you are here to enjoy it, to make the best of it, and on the same time to put out your words, your actions, your thoughts, your energy, and your descending, if you want, consciousness from the subtle to the dense that impacts the reality of the collective consciousness. So that could be a blessing in the process of awakening at this time. I want to transmit to you that there is a huge confidence in this divine intelligence that is flowing through you, that this is not just about what the elite can be saying about what's going to happen on the planet. It's a much more wide scenario. This is an experiment in consciousness. The intelligence that flows through us is a loving, caring intelligence. We're having millions of souls that are on the other side, light beings that help humanity on the side. Do not forget this. And also on a physical level, we have accompaniment not to destroy this planet completely. So let us awaken and let us choose consciously. Let us decide that the future of the planet is in our hands as collective consciousness, and each one of us can awaken in both senses and become aware of what we want and transmit that, vibrate with that, both with actions, both with messages, both with physical reality, and interiorly, harmoniously, from the subtle to the dense. So I send you my blessing, and I hope you use this awakening in times of crisis to the best way, and much love for you wherever you are. Goodbye.